What's up, it's Cinema Shogun here, and one of the most interesting parts of this whole missing Titanic sub-story has been the discourse surrounding this story. I mean, man, this story has provided so many memes, and I've been enjoying the memes, I'm not gonna lie. I'm a fan of dark humor. And everyone handles themselves differently. Everyone handles, tragic situations differently. Some people like to sit around and cry and be depressed, and some people like to make light of things, yeah, it's a dark and depressing situation, but sometimes the way people process that, they do it by joking. So I've seen a lot of memes and jokes that I found funny, but I've also seen some people taking things too far. I've seen a lot of people on social media openly cheering for these people's death simply because I guess they were rich and successful. And I don't understand that mentality. Like, do you not want to be successful in life? I think everyone should aim towards trying to be successful in life, and you're never too old to do it, okay? A lot of people don't become successful. A lot of people don't see their dreams come true until later and later and later on in life. It's never over. As long as you're breathing, you're capable of making something happen. And I want to be successful one day. If you won the lottery tomorrow, do you want people to just think that you deserve to die? If you became successful, working hard, inventing something, creating a business, do you want people to just want you to die because you made a way in life? Or you're more successful than the next guy or the next gal? No. So I don't understand that mentality. Also, I've been seeing a lot of people saying that these people had no business going exploring and what have you. They had no business going to research the Titanic. And listen, I said from day one that they had no business down there, but I don't mean it from that angle. I mean, from everything I learned about the sub had no business being down there, which we now know because it failed. It imploded. But I do understand the importance of exploration. Don't get me wrong. I'm not going to hop my big ass in a cramped tin can and dive to the bottom of the ocean. But I understand that some people are willing to do that, and we need people like that in this world. Where would we be as a society right now if it wasn't for people risking their lives in the name of exploration? You know what I mean? Like, we're at where we're at now as a species. The human race is at where we're at now because people risked their lives and they explored and they found out new things. So I understand the importance of that. I also understand someone being dedicated to something or having an interest, because I have a lot of quirky interests as well. So I don't bash them for being interested in the Titanic. I don't bash them for wanting to explore and wanting to take risk, but at the same time, there's a right way and a wrong way to go about it. Now, if the CEO of this company, Stockton Rush, had this experimental craft that he wanted to see if it could take this dive and he went alone, that's one thing. Even if he had other people on board, other explorers on board that were willing to take that risk, that's one thing. Selling tickets to people who don't necessarily know all of the corners that you cut in order to make this craft, that's an entirely different thing. Opening up this sub to the public, yeah, give or take, most of us aren't going to have the type of money to go on that trip, but at the same time, you don't open this up to the public. There's risk that you take, but you don't take risk on other people's behalf. So that's another problem that I have with this entire situation. But a lot of the people that say that they have no business diving down there or diving deep in the ocean to begin with, I don't think that they understand that people have been diving deep within the ocean for decades. People have been exploring the Titanic wreckage for decades. Just about every day there's a deep sea dive going on. People are diving way deeper than the Titanic. The difference is they're doing it in subs and crafts that were certified, that went through all of the necessary safety protocols and inspections and what have you. OceanGate did not do that. But I think it's important for people to understand that people have been exploring the ocean for years, and there hasn't really been any situations like this one that I can think of. Although, of course, there's been some tragedies, I'm sure. But for the most part, we haven't had any situations like this one. This is a unique situation because the Titan sub that they used, it was a homemade experimental craft that used materials that everyone warned the guy against using. But I'm no expert in this field. However, do you know who James Cameron is? He's the director of the Titanic, I think the Terminator, Avatar. Well, he's not just a director. He's also a deep sea explorer. He's dived way deeper than the Titanic, but he's explored the Titanic over 30 times. And he recently spoke out about this whole entire missing sub situation, and I found what he had to say interesting. Because not only is he someone with experience, at diving down to the Titanic, he made his own craft as well, his own sub as well. And he even took that craft, I believe, like 3 or 4 times deeper than the Titanic. But I want you all to hear from him because he reveals a lot of interesting information, and he is an expert on this type of stuff. So let's hear from him. Hit that thumbs up. And then after this clip, I'll be right back with more thoughts.
Well, I've been down there many times. And I know the wreck site very well, as does my friend Bob Ballard. I've made 33 dives. I actually calculated that I've spent more time on the ship than the captain back in the day. And of course, as a submersible designer myself, I designed and built a sub to go to the deepest place in the ocean, 3 times deeper than Titanic. So I understand the engineering problems associated with building this type of vehicle and all the safety protocols that you have to go through. And I think that what Bob said, because I was watching, is absolutely critical for people to really get the take-home message from this, from our effort here, is deep submergence diving is a mature art. From the early 60s, where there were a few accidents, nobody was killed in the deep submergence, until now, is more time than between Kitty Hawk and the flight of the first 747. So if we haven't improved over that period of time, we have improved drastically over that period of time, and the certification protocols that all other deep submergence vehicles, except this one, that carry passengers, especially paying passengers, all over the world in tropical waters, deep coral reefs, other wreck sites, and so on. The safety record is the gold standard. Absolutely. Not only no fatalities, but no major incidents requiring all of these assets to converge to a site. Of course, that's the nightmare that we've all lived with, since all of us entered this field of deep exploration. We live with it in the back of our minds. But because implosion, as Bob described it, such a violent event, is first and foremost in our minds, the pressure boundary, which is what they call the hull of the sub, that the people go inside, is obviously first and foremost in our minds as engineers. And we spend so much time and energy on that. And we use all the computerized tools available today, finite element analysis. We worked on our sphere for our Deep vehicle that went to the Challenger Deep for over 3 years, just in the computer, before we even made the thing. And then, of course, we pressure tested it over and over and over, and so on. So, this is a mature art, and many people in the community were very concerned about this sub, and a number of the top players in the deep submergence engineering community even wrote letters to the company saying that what they were doing was too experimental to carry passengers and that needed to be certified and so on. So I'm struck by the similarity of the Titanic disaster itself, where the captain was repeatedly warned about ice ahead of his ship, and yet he steamed at full speed into an ice field on a moonless night, and many people died as a result. And for a very similar tragedy where warnings went unheeded to take place at the same exact site, with all the diving that's going on all around the world, I think it's just astonishing. It's really quite surreal. And of course, P.H. Nargeolet, the French legendary submersible dive pilot, a friend of mine. It's a very small community. I've known PH for 25 years. For him to have died tragically in this way is almost impossible for me to process.
Here online, we all have these little communities, these little pockets and corners of the internet, if you will, like the true crime community, or this community that's into this, or this community that's into that. There's a community, that's for deep sea exploring, and it's a small community. Nothing happens within this community without everyone knowing, and everyone knew about OceanGate, and everyone warned the CEO of OceanGate. As you heard, James Cameron knew of the warnings. He knew of OceanGate, and from everything I've looked at, it was not a matter of if the Titan sub would fail. It was a matter of when. Okay? It's a tragedy, but it's almost something that I wouldn't label an accident. I mean, of course, I don't think that they wanted this to happen, although some people may think that. But it's just that, can you really call it an accident? Like, all right, for example, let's say you're driving down the road and there's a sign that says, don't drive this direction. And you ignore that sign. And then along the way, people are flagging you down. Don't drive down this direction. A cop stops you and tells you, don't drive down this direction. As you keep driving and you run off a cliff or something. Is that really a car accident? I mean, I can't really figure out the right words to explain it, but when there's been so many warnings about what could happen to you, when everyone's telling you that this isn't going to work, when you're going against everything that the people in your industry do, when you're not following the right protocols, when you're not using the right materials, and you totally just ignore the rules, is it really an accident at that point? Because it seems to me like a lot of people expected that this was eventually going to happen. And I see a lot of people asking, well, if this craft had gone to the bottom before, how come it didn't implode then? Well, I don't have the answer to that question. But I would assume that maybe the material that this craft was made of, over time, going down there, repeatedly, that eventually it just gave way. It's like an old pair of Jordan sneakers. You go play on the basketball court, you have a good game. The next day, great game. Eventually, after playing in those shoes over and over again, the soles are going to fall off. Same thing with this sub. This sub couldn't take the wear and tear. Sure, maybe it had a successful mission or two beforehand, but eventually, this was going to happen. And everyone in the industry, everyone in the community knew that. But there was nothing they could do to stop it. They issued the warnings were ignored, and now here we are. But I enjoyed hearing from James Cameron. I hope you all did as well. Let me know your thoughts about this down in the comments below. While you're down there, hit that thumbs up, hit that subscribe, ring that notification bell. And I'll be back later with some more weird details about this whole situation.